Hello, everyone. Welcome to the All Day Football Show. I am your host, Jackson Kellogg, and today we'll be getting into Week 5 of my NFL Power Rankings. Can't believe we're going into Week 5 already. So crazy to think about. Getting right into it, though. At number 2, I still have the Jets. They were not able to beat a beat-up Broncos on Thursday Night Football. And aside from some Sam Darnold flashes, the team fell flat and could not do anything or get any production. So definitely look for this team to get blown up in the offseason in case to get fired, but not during the season. That's not how the Jets run. At 31, I also still have the Giants. Both these New York teams will stay in their spots until they get a win. So I'll just put it plain and simple out there. They will not move from these spots until they get a win. And I don't think that's going to happen this year. The Giants kept it close against the Rams, but it was more miscues and not good play by the Rams and less of the Giants actually playing well. So Giants are still as abysmal as the Jets are, and Daniel Jones is not getting the development that he needs. At 30, I have the Jaguars. The Jaguars are starting to look a little bit more like what they were supposed to. They could not come away with the win this past weekend against the Bengals. Joe Burrow just threw all over them. This defense did not do a very good job of stopping the Bengals offense or getting much of a pass rush. So poor play by the Jaguars. They're going to have to look to fix it if they want to stay competitive. At 29, I have the Lions. The Lions played okay against the Saints until they pulled their normal shenanigans by blowing a lead. So that's why they're still dropping. There are a couple of different teams that have these narratives to them that even if they play semi-decent, if the narrative still continues, then they're still going to drop if they lose. So we'll get into a couple of the others coming up here soon. But I mean, with the Lions, their big thing right now is they blow these good leads, and they can't finish a game off in the fourth quarter, and it's really hurting them. And Patricia's probably going to get fired in the next couple games if it continues. At 28, I do have the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow getting his first win in his career. Good performance by him. He's definitely up there for Offensive Rookie of the Year right now. He's playing great. Couldn't really ask for better play by him. As if the O-line could develop and actually play pretty decently and not be one of the bottom 3 offensive lines in the NFL, the Bengals would be more competitive. But between their offensive line and their defensive shakiness, they're still going to need some time to grow as a team. At 27, I have the Dolphins. They kept the Seahawks closer than I thought they would, but Ryan Fitzmagic's magic is slowly fading, and it's only a matter of time before Tua Tagovailoa gets put in there. Do I think it'll help the Dolphins a lot? I don't think so. I definitely think the Dolphins right now their big thing is they have to get a season under their belt with this team, grow as a team because they've brought in so many new players. And they're obviously not getting it done together as a unit. At 26, I have the Denver Broncos. It's partially not their fault. I mean, they got the win against the Jets, but I mean, it's the Jets. I have no reason to move them up for that performance. Their injuries just keep getting more and more, and soon they're not going to be able to put out a starting team. Like, if the Broncos would be screwed if they got hit with, like, what the Titans did with their COVID cases. If that were to happen to a team like the Broncos, the Niners, or the Eagles, any of those 3 teams would be so screwed. They'd either have to push their games until the latest possible time, or they'll all be throwing out, like, half the squad as practice squad. So, Broncos' situation isn't looking too good right now. They're definitely hoping Drew Lock can get ready to play this week against the Patriots. At 25, it finally happened. Bill O'Brien is gone. But what did it cost? Well, it cost a drop to the 25th spot in my power rankings for the Texans, but even more, it costed an 0-4 start to the season, a realization that DeAndre Hopkins trade was abysmal and atrocious and disastrous and any negative adjective you could think of. That the Brandon Cooks trade has not worked out so far to go along with it. And just pretty much that Bill O'Brien was a waste of... You just wasted the prime years of the Texans while Watson was on his rookie contract. Purely wasted it. Bill O'Brien does not deserve another job in the NFL, even close to front office positions. I wouldn't even really touch him as a coach in that matter. Definitely much needed to get rid of him for the Texans, but it's a bit too late at an 0-4 start. Washington football team at number 24. They had a good first performance win against the Eagles in Week 1, and then they haven't lived up to that hype since. Dwayne Haskins is the lowest graded quarterback through the season so far by Pro Football Focus. So it's partially his fault, but I mean, you have to look at it. How would you feel if your top 3 receivers were named Terry McLaurin, Dontrell Inman, and Steven Sims? I mean, that's a rough go for Haskins. McLaurin is totally a great wide receiver. He was a definite steal last year. But, I mean, other than that, Washington has no weapons. Antonio Gibson is developing to be a good weapon. But other than that, Washington's in need some help, and the defense isn't doing the best job to help them out in that aspect. At 23, I had to move the Eagles up a lot for the main fact that they finally got a win, and they are technically in the lead of the NFC East, but I don't have them ahead of the Cowboys because the Eagles are definitely not the better team there, and you'll see when they go head-to-head. The Eagles should really be 0-4 if all teams were playing at full strength. The Niners are so much better than the Eagles, but they were dealing with injuries. Nick Mullins didn't play very well. Eagles didn't have a great showing either, but again, as well as the Niners, they had a huge amount of injuries, especially on the offensive line and wide receiver. But I mean, the Eagles have had injury issues for years, like I've said over and over. There comes a point where you just need to, if you know that your players have injuries, then you need to have depth on your roster. At 22, I have the Atlanta Chokers, also known as the Atlanta Falcons, who are 0-4 and cannot win a single game no matter what they do. The Packers scored double the points the Falcons scored, and it wasn't even close. That first Aaron Jones touchdown, it was a perfect representation of the Falcons' defense so far this year. They had 2 defensive backs lined up on the left side. They were man coverage, so to cover 2 players. And if you watch the clip, Aaron Jones, so he goes out wide, and the 2 defensive backs followed the same player into the end zone, and that left Aaron Jones wide open. It was like one of those times when you're playing Madden, and you just want to, scream at your defensive units because they're not in the position that they're supposed to be, and the computer didn't make the right decision. That's one of those moments that would make you scream and throw your controller across the room. But except it was real life, and that's the Falcons' season so far. Dan Quinn is obviously not going to save this team. Hasn't done anything good for them since their Super Bowl appearance to the Patriots, and they should just blow it all up. Minnesota Vikings at number 21. I'm still skeptical of them, especially after. They are 1-3, but their one win is against a winless Texans team right now, who is led by Bill O'Brien. So I want to see the Vikings play a couple more games to really determine if they're going to compete for a wild card this year, because they're certainly not catching the Packers in the division. Packers just ran away with the division, so now Minnesota has to battle for one of those 3 wild card spots, and that'll be tough to do with an NFC West division that's super strong. At number 20, I have the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers have played better than I expected them to, and it shows here. they somehow beat the Cardinals with their atrocious defense that normally is. But a lot of their younger players showed out. Between Brian Burns, Derek Brown, Yetur Gross-Matos, like all those young players showed why they were high overall picks. And they definitely put out a good performance against the Cardinals. Now they just have to put together more wins to try and compete for a wild card and possibly even a division title. At number 19, I have the Chicago Bears. Nick Foles, that was pretty much what I was expecting. Nick Foles as the comeback, bench the starter, throw Foles in. He's a great quarterback in that aspect. Nick Foles is not a starter. He's not a starting quarterback. So if you look at it this way, so if you want to look at journeyman quarterbacks, the prototype journeyman quarterback is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Goes to a team, has a good first year there, then does bad after that. Nick Foles is similar into the fact that Nick Foles isn't a regular season starter. Nick Foles is meant to play in the big moments and not anything else. So Nick Foles comes in for an injured Carson Wentz a couple years ago, goes and wins a Super Bowl. A huge moment from there. And then last week, comes in, Trubisky gets benched, they throw Foles in, and it's spotlights on him, gets a comeback victory. Now, this week, they're like, all right, we're going to hand you the keys to the car, and he's like, oh, my job's safe now, so now I'm just going to go back to how I normally play, and it's not very good. So, not a good look for the Bears going forward, as both of these quarterbacks are probably going to be gone at the end of their season. They're going to be restarting at the position. At 18, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. You'll notice that I moved them up a spot despite the loss. They were competitive in that game. They played all right, all things considered. Brady just torched apart that defense. Herbert still looks good. He's making the prototypical rookie mistakes, but he'll grow from that. And the Chargers have hope. They don't look like they're not trending downward despite their losses. I mean, they kept it close to the Chiefs. They got more or less blown out by the Buccaneers. But it's kind of what you expected from a beat-up Chargers roster against the greatest of all time. At 17, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. After their first couple wins, especially against the Saints, you're like, oh, this team looks pretty good, and then they go and get blown out by the Patriots and the Bills. Now, the Patriots and the Bills both look like Super Bowl contenders. I'll give you that. But, I mean, the Raiders couldn't even keep it close. Generally, when you look at a team that's competing for a wild card, you want to see them stay competitive against those top tier competitors. So for the Raiders in the AFC, you want to see them stay competitive against teams like the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, the Patriots, and the Titans, and they were unable to do that in two of their games against those top 5 opponents so far. So not a good look for the Raiders, as they look to be one of those teams that can beat up on the weaker ones, but cannot beat top-tier talent. At 16, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys should really be winless right now, but the Falcons are even worse, so they're not. Cowboys are 1-3. They just allowed the Browns to score the most points they've scored in a decade. Crazy numbers. Cowboys got to get it together. They just have to not completely fall apart, and they'll make the playoffs because of the division that they're in. But still, for the Cowboys, just haven't brought their defense to any of their games. They play so lazily, and they don't make the plays that are needed to win a football game, while Dak goes and throws for 500 yards and still loses a game. That's absolutely atrocious right there. And that, if anything, go over Mike McCarthy, go over Mike Nolan. You need to be looking your eyes at Jerry Jones, because you look at the Cowboys had a mid-first round pick, And instead of going for a defensive player who they had a need at, they took a top-tier wide receiver just to spite the Eagles. Granted, the Eagles have done that before with Dallas Goedert a couple years ago in like the second or third round. But there's no words for it. There's absolutely no need to go for a third wide receiver. Absolutely no need. And they did it anyway. And now their defense is absolutely awful. Trevon Diggs has played at the best. And it's just a bad look for the Cowboys right now, who need to get it together quickly. At 15, I have the Colts. The Colts are slowly rising because I'm waiting for... they're 3-1 right now, I think their record is. But it's solely based on the idea that they haven't played any top-tier teams yet. Like, they've played the Jags, they played the Jaguars, the Vikings, the Bears, someone else, I forget who it was. And they haven't, they've come by with wins, but they haven't, the Jets. Jets were the fourth one. But they haven't played a top team yet, and I want to see how they play against a team like that, because I think Phillip Rivers is overplaying his talent right now, and it's definitely I think the Colts are an overreaction this year with how they're playing. At 14, I have the Cardinals. All right, let's ignore the fact that I think I had the Cardinals in the number 5 spot like 2 or 3 weeks ago. If we could just do that. Yeah, I know they were definitely in the top 10, but I think they were in like the top 5 somewhere. Because Cardinals haven't done anything since. DeAndre Hopkins played injured, but it still wasn't a great performance by the Cardinals offense. They couldn't get the run game going. Kyler Murray was their leading rusher, and he didn't even rush that crazy amount. Still has to become a better decision maker. He threw for 3 touchdowns, but only had a little over 100 yards throwing. So not good offensive performance by the Cardinals. And then the defense, that secondary just was awful against the Panthers. Teddy Bridgewater just lit them up. And the Cardinals' defense is looking very similar to how they did last year and how they just let the other team's offense light up the scoreboard. At 13, I have the San Francisco 49ers. They kept it close against the Eagles. Both teams were super injured, though. I don't think the Niners' play over these last 2 weeks is a reflection on how they'll look for the rest of the year. I think if they could get a decent amount of their players healthy, they'll be more competitive against higher talent teams, and definitely going for a wild card spot this year. After I think the Seahawks are probably going to run away with the division. At 12, the third straight NFC West team, I have Los Angeles Rams. They barely beat the Giants on the scoreboard. Their play definitely wasn't up to par of how they've been the last couple weeks. Rams, they definitely have to get it together because if they're going to play higher talent teams, like they came back and almost beat the Bills, but they didn't. Bills stopped the latest 28-3. So right now that's the Rams' only loss, but it's still a loss to a top team. So the Rams have to try and build some better wins together against mediocre teams so that when they face a good team, they can be competitive and have a good look against them. At 11, I have the Cleveland Brownies. I've been on this hype train since the beginning of last year, and I got laughed at, especially after their performance from last year. But I said, it's coaching. You got to get a good coach in there. And what has Kevin Stefanski done? He's led the Browns to their best record in years. He has made Baker Mayfield look great. That Browns offense looks amazing. And the defense, though they allowed a huge amount of points and yards against an offense like the Cowboys, that Cowboys offense is like top 3. And the Browns were dealing with some injuries on the defensive side this year. So, good performance by the Browns. I'm definitely excited to see this team finally competing well. At number 10, I have the New Orleans Saints. I'm not moving them after this week's performance as they squeaked by with a win against the Detroit Lions, but they haven't played horrible enough for me to want to drop them. So they're going to stay where they are. They need to start playing better. Hopefully, when Michael Thomas comes back, that'll help them a bit. But Breeze definitely has to step up and play better. So 9 and 8 are going to be the same as they were last week, as it's the Steelers and Titans. Neither of them played this week due to the Titans having 20 cases of COVID in their facility. So Steelers, forget who they're playing in this upcoming week, but they definitely have to show. They've had 2 weeks to prepare. Well, kind of. They've had more extra time to prepare for their opponent. Better show on the field. Same thing goes for the Titans, who I have at 8. Both of these teams need to show that, because they're on that bubble of their wild card contenders, Titans are probably going to win their division, but they have to show whether they're contenders or pretenders. They have to show that what their play actually means, because I feel like the Steelers they're 3-0 right now, but I feel like if things swayed some other ways, they could be 0-3 at the same time. Same thing goes for the Titans, whose 3 wins have all ridden off of Stephen Gostkowski field goals. So they both need to prove that they can be competitive in the AFC Conference. At 7, I have the New England Patriots. I'll save my Brian Hoyer and referee rant for tomorrow. To look at the positive side, the Patriots showed out against Mahomes. Every time the Patriots have played the Chiefs with Mahomes as a starter, each game they've allowed him to score less and less points. Aside from the pick 6, the Chiefs scored 19 points on offense. That's the lowest mark Mahomes has scored against the Patriots, and I think they've played against each other 4 or 5 times already. So definitely good performance by the Patriots defense, save for 2 interceptions that should have been made, and some other, 3 if we count the one that the ref screwed over. But again, video tomorrow on that in Boston Tea Party Podcast, episode 8, I believe it is. We'll get more on that tomorrow. Patriots definitely do look like Super Bowl contenders, especially if Cam Newton were to be playing this game. I think they had a chance at winning. At number 6, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Since that not so good-looking loss to the Saints, they've worked better from there. They've gotten good, consistent, well-played wins, built up on top of each other. Definitely look better than they did in that Week 1 matchup. They're not living up to the crazy hype that they had. I mean, they were hyped to be like a huge, unstoppable team, and they're definitely stoppable. You just got to get the right team to do it. But definitely Super Bowl contenders this year, especially in a hard NFC conference. Cracking into the top 5, so all the top 5 teams are in the same spots. Buffalo had a great performance against the Raiders, so that's why they stay at number 5. I don't think I've seen enough from them to move them up further. I think their Week 6 Thursday Night Football matchup against the Chiefs is going to be very telling as to how the Bills' season is going to go. The Bills are one of the hottest teams in football right now, but the Bills in the past have been one of those teams where they've looked really good and then haven't been able to show up in the times that matter. So all 4 teams that they've beat, 2 teams in the Jets and Dolphins, and 2 wildcard competitors in the Rams and Raiders. So definitely looking forward to see the Bills face a elite competitor in a team like the Chiefs in 2 weeks. At 4, I have the Ravens. They needed a bounce-back win against Washington, especially after Mahomes just tore apart that Baltimore team and Lamar Jackson's kryptonite in the Chiefs. It's so funny to see how, we have the triangle now where it's the Patriots. Yes, they lost to the Chiefs, but the Patriots defense can stop Mahomes. The Chiefs defense can stop Lamar. and the Ravens defense can stop the Patriots generally. So definitely looking forward to the Patriots-Ravens matchup that's going to come. Let's see if that triangle breaks. But Ravens definitely put in a good performance against Washington. I would have liked to see it be a little better, but we'll take what you can get. Still at number 3, I have the Seattle Seahawks. Similar to Baltimore. Would have liked the Seahawks to have more of a blowout win against the Dolphins. Definitely was closer than I think it should have been, or I expected it to be, especially with how Ryan Fitzpatrick played. Definitely was looking to see Russell Wilson cooking, but he didn't cook too much as Tyler Lockett couldn't get involved in the game at all. So Seahawks definitely have some little errors they need to figure out, but not too much critique for them. At number 2, as the best team in the NFC right now, I have the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is looking like the Aaron Rodgers of old. He's making great plays, and no one can stop him. That's if drafting a quarterback in the first round to be a replacement is motivation for Rodgers, then people should just start doing that more often. I think drafting quarterbacks early is a good strategy in my opinion, because you can develop them and then trade them later on or see if one's better. But that's a theory I might want to talk about one day in the future. But for now, we'll just stick with the power rankings, as Aaron Rodgers is playing great. The defense is doing a good job at holding top offenses, especially the Falcons, who have a pretty good offense, and Matt Ryan with his other receivers. So definitely good performance by the Packers, looking for them to keep it up against top opponents. And at number 1, I was really hoping that the Patriots would win so that I could knock the Chiefs out of here. I'll be honest, I debated taking the Chiefs out of this spot. I was thinking about pushing them down to number 2, but I didn't, because they're the defending champs, haven't lost a game, and other than that, Patriots, they didn't look the greatest against the Chargers, and they certainly didn't look too good against the Patriots. The defense bailed out Mahomes in that offense against the Patriots, and that's why I feel like if the Patriots had Cam Newton going in that game and the refs didn't screw the Patriots over as badly as they did, I think that could have gone the other way, and I think the Patriots could have walked away with a win. So the Chiefs definitely have, it's not that they have something to figure out, but other teams are starting to figure out Mahomes and those Chiefs, especially Bill Belichick. And if teams start following the Bill Belichick model, the Chiefs are going to have to adapt and evolve their offense to keep it, to keep up with the rest of the league and stay as the top team in the AFC. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, if you did and you enjoyed, please subscribe, leave a like. It'd be greatly appreciated. Tomorrow will be Boston Tea Party Podcast, and Thursday will be game picks for Week 5. But anyway, guys, hope you all have a great day, and let's go Patriots for this Sunday against the Broncos.